life is short, and I don't want to waste my time laying on the couch. So I think for people, when you're first diagnosed, I think it's important that you learn what your limitations are and then push yourself beyond them a little bit.
Cue music. Places, everybody, places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Saylor. Now, we don't want you to worry about taking too many notes, so you can join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club, and we'll send you the transcripts and show notes from every episode. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Saylor.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Saylor from SharonSaylor.com, and it's my pleasure to be with you here. Another episode strong. Oh, my gosh. It's so exciting. We're over 200 episodes now. I'm just still in awe and wonder about it all. And I always get so excited with the amazing people I have met on this healing journey of mine. And tonight, I've met another thriver. That's right. I met her on social media. I read one of her blog posts, and I immediately said, you got to be on the show. I love having thrivers on the show because, you know, you hear me week after week, and you're like, okay, yeah, Sharon, that's you. No, there's a whole bunch of thrivers out there. We're a thriving community. I love it. Regardless of your diagnosis, thriving at whatever level you're at and continuing to optimize and thrive even more. It's never, never, ever over until it's over. And what I love about my guest tonight is her tagline is, there is always hope. And I love that. Love that. Let me introduce her. Her name is Pamela Jessen, and she lives in Langford, BC, which is outside of Victoria. Love the island of Victoria. And she's happily married and to her amazing husband, Ray, has 2 grown kids and 3 wonderful grandsons that keep her completely busy. She's formerly employed as an administrative specialist and a certified event planner. And with her career behind her, she is now on long-term disability and has created the most amazing blog about chronic pain, chronic fatigue, and invisible illness. You can find her blog. She calls it There's Always Hope, and it's over at PamelaJessen.com. And I'll have that up on Understanding Autoimmune for you guys so you can see how it's spelled. And in addition to all of that, of blogging, and a little bit about her blog too. She answers people's questions. She has guest bloggers every so often. It's just really a delightful blog to read about hope and inspiration, and that you are much more than your diagnosis. And she is an active volunteer for the Patient Voices Network, an organization in British Columbia that helps ordinary people have the ability to have a say in how their healthcare is delivered in the province. And that is so important. We connected over that because, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of you know your body best and as being your own best self-advocate. So welcome, Pamela. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much. I am so delighted to be here, Sharon.
Oh, you know, I just fell in love with your blog and your upbeat perspective on it all, and your honesty. I enjoy when so many times there is a post there where we all go, yep, I've been there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, when I've been posting about things, I felt there's no reason to hide anything. You know, this is my perspective on things. This is my life that I'm talking about, and I'm hoping to resonate with other people. So why hide behind a label? You know, I have bipolar disorder. I'm not going to hide that from people. I want people to know that they can be comfortable coming to my blog, and they can recognize a fellow thriver and survivor. So everything comes from the heart, and everything is 100% who I am.
And I think that's important for people to know, that connection, that real connection, because oftentimes after a diagnosis, you can feel all alone. And I
Absolutely.
I was reading some of your posts about that too, and nodding my head as I was reading. And one of my things I love to say is, "You're not alone."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's very true, and again, when I'm writing a post, I'm trying to think of how the other person who's going to be reading that post, how they might react to that. And is this something that's going to reach their heart? Is this something that they're going to find comfort in or get some information from? I want them to know that they're not alone, that this is another person who's reaching out to them, that who could be a friend to them, and not only provide information, but maybe somebody that they can recognize solidarity with.
I like that. I always like to say that about understanding autoimmune and all the podcasts I do as well. It's about showing, number one, you're not alone, but you're not the only one out there. There are other people that can understand. Sometimes it's hard, our family members, as much as they love us, if you haven't walked the walk of sleepless nights or inflammation or what have you, any of the number of things, it's sometimes hard for people to understand what you're really going through.
It really is, and I have the most wonderful husband in the world, and he really does try hard to understand, but he's the first to admit he has no idea what it is that I'm experiencing. So it's difficult for him. As much as he wants to understand, he never will. It's going to be something that he can only do the best he can. He can do the best he can, but he's never going to know exactly what it feels like to have fibromyalgia, to experience the pain that I experience. Fibro is just one of several conditions that I live with. When you're blogging and when you're talking to other people who do have those same illnesses, you want to be able to make those connections with them so they do know that they're not alone, that they're not the only person who is walking the floor at 2:00 in the morning because of the pain that they're in, or whatever it is that they're feeling. So that's always my goal when I'm writing a post or I'm hitting submit, that I'm going to be able to make that connection with those people out there.
Absolutely. And you do it so well. I love the blog because, as I said in the intro there, not only do you answer questions, every so often you share your own insights, and every so often there's a guest blogger, which I find fascinating as well. I enjoy reading everybody's viewpoint.
Yeah, I did something this past year called Interview October, where I spent the entire month of October interviewing other people. And not just people with fibromyalgia. I went for people who had a variety of different invisible illnesses. And it was really fascinating to hear all these different stories from people who all experienced the same thing. Because their illnesses are invisible, to look at them, you might not necessarily know that they've got a problem, but they all experience the same sorts of situations where people might not necessarily realize that they're ill or might not believe that they're ill, but they all go through the same sorts of struggles. And so to give them the opportunity to have a voice and a platform to be able to share their stories, it was something that I was really excited about being able to do. And the stats for my blog were really quite impressive for having to be able to do that. I was really pleased with the numbers, and I've decided to actually repeat that again in April. So I think what I'm going to try and do is make it an annual event where every April and every October I'll do guest platforms.
Oh, it was wonderful to read, and it sounds sort of weird when I say wonderful, but I think it's important that we hear everybody's voice about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not wonderful that I could relate to what people were going through. That's not the wonderful part or anything, but just that they had a voice and they had something important to share. And
absolutely.
I find that often gets lost in all of the medical part of it. It often gets lost that, hey, this is my body. I'm totally aware of what my body's doing.
Yes, and everybody has a story behind their illness. They're a person, not an illness. And I think that sometimes gets lost in the translation as well. So they were able to share the story of themselves while talking about the illness that they live with. And that was really important for me as well, that they were able to talk about the person that they are and the illness that they have, and to be able to make that differentiation and to be able to get that out as part of the interview.
Yeah, that's important. We had Sarah Payton on a few weeks ago, and one thing that I love that she shared, and I think about this with an autoimmune diagnosis, is the concept of, are you angry at the doctor? Are you angry at your body? Are you angry at, or are you angry that? Are you angry, okay, so it takes it off into the third space there. And that's part of what I see about your blog. There's lots of hope and happiness and inspiration there.
Yes.
And true, there are some stories that you put up there that, yeah, you can tell there's some upset. There's like, why me types of things. But I love how you always offer really useful suggestions for people.
I do. I have to be honest. There are certainly times where, as I've lived through these different illnesses that I live with, it's not so much that I question why me. Why not me? We've never been guaranteed that we won't go through these difficult times. But I sit there and I think to myself, you can't wallow and you can't dwell. So you might as well find a way to survive and thrive and get through these situations that we've been given. So when I do post from the heart, I share the good and the bad, and I share those feelings and emotions, and I'm not afraid to share, the negatives that I've experienced and the depressions that I've gone through. But I always try to leave, like I say, with some hope. My motto being, there is always hope. I always try to leave my post with some ideas of how you can get past the sort of negative parts and the depression parts, and give people the ideas of hope and how they can reach out and reach the point of hope. I think that's important, to not leave with a negative feeling in the post. So I try to leave those positive points behind, so there's always something to hope for.
Share with us a few of your favorite ones. Do you have a couple of favorite ones that you would?
I actually do. There's one that I posted about loving my body, and it got a really good response. I think when you have a chronic illness, we have a tendency to get negative about our bodies because we feel like our bodies have let us down and betrayed us. And I wrote a post talking about loving my body despite the fact it's let me down. I'm just an average woman with an average body. It's not outstanding in any way, shape, or form, but I love it just the way it is. And I think it's important that we start remembering that even if this body has let us down in some ways, it's still taking care of us in a lot of other ways. And that's something that we need to remember. It can be as beautiful as we want it to be and as beautiful as we'd like it to be in a physical sense and in an emotional sense, but we have to look at it that way. We can't look at it in the negative sense of, oh, I'm an illness. No, you're not an illness. You're a beautiful person in a body that's slightly flawed. And you need to start thinking of it in a more positive, beautiful way.
Awesome. One of the things I always talk about, and people sometimes look at me a little cross-eyed, is this idea of I'm having a healing experience. I'm on a healing journey. Mm-hmm. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a permanent type of thing in my mind. I like to say, there is going to be an outcome. There is a different place that I'm headed to keep that forward momentum going. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I did when the first thought, and it's perfectly normal when you get a diagnosis to say, why me? I mean, that's
absolutely
perfectly normal. I think I'd worry if somebody didn't say that. But one of the things that I like to share is I did a gratitude journal. Mm-hmm. Just to remind me. And sometimes when I go back and look at it, some of them are as simple as being grateful I woke up and I was breathing.
Yes.
And I woke up that day.
Yeah.
But that sure helped me to go back now and see how far I've come.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to be able to do that. And speaking of gratitude, twice now I've posted, and I have a third one that'll be coming up in the next month, purely about gratitude and about joy, and listing all the different ways that you can be joyful and be grateful. And it's just pure simple things. Go out and look at a sunset. Go out and walk hand in hand with somebody that you love. Send a note to somebody that you haven't spoken to for a while. Just simple little suggestions for going out and sharing joy and sharing gratitude, just to help us remember how to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Remember how to do it.
Yeah.
That's critically important. I mean, how many, I know you've experienced, I read it in your blog, how many of us have brain fog?
Exactly.
Some have some memory loss or other types of things. Or sometimes you just get stuck in that place where it's hard to remember. So it's nice to have a little thing to remind us, a little list to remind us.
It is, yeah. And unfortunately, brain fog being such a big part of fibromyalgia, it's one of the bigger symptoms that goes along with having fibro. So as I said to you before we got started, stop me if I go off onto a different tangent, because it happens so frequently. It was actually one of the main reasons why I ended up having to give up my job, because my short-term memory and the brain fog became so bad. I could not continue working. I was known for having to not ever carry a notebook around with me. Everything was in my head, and I could recall it at a second's notice. And it was almost like having early onset Alzheimer's disease, where all of a sudden my memory was just gone and I couldn't remember anything. And I could be in the middle of a conversation and all of a sudden I had no clue what we were talking about. And it was the most upsetting thing, along with the physical symptoms that I was going through, to suddenly have lost everything that I had prided myself on in my job. So, to be able to remember how to be grateful and how to be joyful is just the tip of the iceberg. This was fighting for my life at that point, and unfortunately, fibro won at that point. So,
yeah. Won the round, but not the battle.
Exactly.
So.
It'll never win the battle with me, not as long as I'm breathing.
Absolutely. We need to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Pamela Jessen about what it's like to be a thriver regardless of your diagnosis, as well as her important work around having all of our voices matter. So we'll be right back.
Life Interrupted Radio will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes. Co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Saylor from SharonSaylor.com. my pleasure to be here with you. And we're talking to Pamela Jessen. She lives out in Langford, BC, which is just outside of Victoria. And we've been talking, she is a blogger and an amazing person who writes about chronic pain, chronic fatigue, invisible illness, and her community. She shares what it's like, raw, real types of blog posts. And her tagline is, "There's always hope." And what I enjoy about reading her blog is there is always hope. She always ends on a positive note. And she is also an active volunteer for a group called Patient Voices Network. And one of the things that I was most frustrated about, and one of the reasons I started the Autoimmune Hour, was being heard. It was so frustrating to be heard. Tell us some of the tips that you've learned to be able to speak up for yourself in the medical community, or actually with anyone, but mostly the medical community.
Well, what I've been able to do now, let me explain a little bit about what Patient Voices Network is, because this is where all of my volunteer work comes into play and how I've been able to have a voice and use my voice in a big way. Patient Voices Network is a group that, like you said, allows people to have a voice in how healthcare is provided in British Columbia, where I live. So the BC Health government, they put this group together, and it's now administered by the BC Patient Safety and Quality Council. And it allows anybody who wants to volunteer to become a member of this organization. And so anybody, you, me, anybody who lives in British Columbia from any age from adult on can become a member, and you're allowed to participate in any kind of engagement that a healthcare provider is looking for a patient advocate. So whatever your interest in health, any kind of illness, any kind of organization, you have an opportunity to have your voice heard. So for myself, I'm currently involved in 4 different committees. One of the committees that I work on is the Medical Laboratory Committee. So all of the laboratories that are on Vancouver Island, I sit on the committee that oversees the quality control for them. So if there's ever an incident in a laboratory or in one of the blood collection sites, we're the group that oversees what happened with that incident, how we make it better, how we prevent those incidents from happening in the first place. A second committee that I sit on is called the Clinical Resource Committee for the BC Emergency Physicians Network. And what we do in that particular committee, myself and my partner, we are going through all of the patient information sheets that you're given at discharge from the emergency room. None of them have ever had a patient voice provided. So they were put together by doctors, but no patient had ever looked at them before to see if they were even understandable from a patient point of view. Right now, there are 70 patient information sheets in the network. So we're going through every single one of those sheets and reading them from a patient perspective and updating them to make sure that they are actually patient friendly.
Wow.
Who would have thunk? Like, seriously.
No, I'm just thinking of where I am now as a thriver and reading even the release from just an ordinary doctor visit, the summary, how confusing that can be. I can't imagine if you're, a real off day trying to, I remember very easily not being able to remember what the doctor just said.
I know, it's tough.
And relying on those sheets, like, oh yeah, what was there? And going, I don't know, I don't understand this.
Yeah. So
what
this
a great idea.
Critical work that we're doing. And actually, I just headed up a working session in Vancouver. I flew over for the day, headed up a working group where we brought in a group of patients, and we plowed through 39 of those 70 sheets as a group to get them done. We still have a bunch more to do, but my partner and I will continue to work on the rest of them together. So of those sheets that we did, those now go back to the physicians so they can make sure that what we did as patients is medically sound, and then those will get fired off to all the emergency rooms. So now patients will actually be getting patient-vetted information that's readable, understandable, medically sound, and it will make sense to them when they're reading these instructions because of the work that we're doing. So those are 2 of the committees that I sit on. And one of the other committees that I'm working on right now is actually a surgical quality group where I'm the lone patient voice for a group of physicians, surgeons, and representatives from the Ministry of Health. And we're talking about surgical quality. So they're all talking about quality from the surgical point of view. And I get to be the lone voice from the patient's side of things saying, excuse me, patients see quality from a different perspective. So I'm here to make sure you guys don't forget that.
Well, I think it's that trap of becoming an expert, and whether you're an expert patient or you're an expert doctor, whatever, expert care provider, whatever it is, we can easily fall into that trap of only being able to see our point of view. I think this is awesome to have a committee that allows all of these points of view to have a say in what's.
And what's especially flattering is that I was actually handpicked to be on this surgical committee.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I was really super thrilled about that because of the reputation that I've earned through the other work that I've done for Patient Voices Network. They actually handpicked me to be on this particular group. So that was a real pat on the back for me.
Oh, that's so important. And I want everyone to hear that part of your voice matters.
It does.
No, I think it's fantastic. Now, I have to say, for people who aren't aware, that the Canadian healthcare system is much different than the U.S. healthcare system.
Yes, it is.
So that might be a reason why there's such an amazing network there. I would love to see something like that created, or maybe it's already here and I'm unaware of it. That would be fantastic. If you are aware of something like that down here in the States, let me know. That would be awesome.
Well, and I would also say to people too down in the States that if you're interested in doing this type of work as a patient advocate, there's nothing stopping you from going to your local hospital and asking, do you have a program like this? Is there any kind of patient advocacy program in place? Or you can also go to an organization of your choice, like, the Cancer Agency or diabetes or whatever you might be interested in, and acting as a patient advocate for them. So, don't let your imagination stop you. Whatever you might be interested in, if you're interested in volunteering like this, all you need to do is ask, and you never know what might be open to you.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I love to share is being able to speak up, speak from your heart, speak from what you know, and it will change the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Wow, fantastic. So as you've been learning all of this, doing your blog and talking to other patients and being part of the Patient Voices Network, and let's say someone is struggling to talk about what they have, talk about their life in I'll say an open way. What tips do you have for people that they can, when they first start and they go, oh, Pam, I don't want people to feel sorry for me, or I don't want people to think this, or I don't want to think that. What were some of the first things that you taught yourself to do when you began to open up?
I think probably the first thing, and I am a very open person, so for me it was easier to open up to other people in a support group or in a Facebook group and things like that. For people who are a little bit less likely to open up, I think it's important for them to find one person that they can talk to. And something that I'm very open to, and I hope that we can put this on the website afterwards, is email me. If there's anybody out there who's listening, who's really struggling and doesn't have anybody to talk to, send me an email. I'm more than open to communicating with people, and I don't mind having my email address out there. If anybody wants to reach out and get in touch with me, I'm more than happy to do that. I can help put you in touch with an organization, or I can just simply chat with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'll be right back.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Change and growth are part of natural life, and also part of your spiritual life. Everyone needs support and guidance, especially during life passages. Upgrade yourself with the OMTimes Experts program. With OMTimes Experts, you have access to the best intuitive coaches, spiritual teachers, counselors, astrologists, and oracles. Our team was carefully selected so you can trust. Find out more at experts.omtimes.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Saylor from SharonSaylor.com. What I love about social media these days is actually where Pamela and I met was via social media, is there are plenty of groups out there that you can find that you can share and ask questions, everything like, has this ever happened to anybody else?
Exactly. You know, there's so many questions that come up. And I mean, it depends on, you know, what you're living with, what type of illness or condition or what have you. There's generally going to be a support group for whatever it is that you're finding yourself facing. It's difficult to reach out sometimes because you feel like you're often the only one who's experiencing whatever you're experiencing. But I can guarantee you're not. Somebody else out there is going through exactly the same thing that you are, and that person is sitting there thinking that they're the only person going through the same thing that you are. So there is always somebody out there who is going through what you're going through. And it's just a matter of connecting with each other. I've got a lot of experience with getting people connected into the right sources and groups and stuff. So like I say, I'm more than happy to reach out with you and connect you and put you into the right groups and stuff. So, you know, if people want to get in touch with me, I'm happy to do that.
Now, share with us some of the other tips that you have for being such a thriver. I mean, just listening to you right now, my goodness, it doesn't seem to have slowed you down. Just keeping yourself incredibly active. And what I love is, even though your life changed with the diagnosis, you've still found a really strong and passionate purpose.
I have. And, you know, people think that because I've been doing so much and I've been volunteering so much and everything, you know, what I get back from people is, oh, well, you must not be very sick then, or, oh, your conditions must not limit you very much. And what a lot of people don't know is that I'm an insomniac and I get by with about 2 hours of sleep every night. So a lot of my blogging happens at night. And a lot of the volunteering that I do, it actually doesn't take a lot of my time. It's mostly committee work, and I probably put in about maybe 10 to 15 hours a month. So there's a lot of time that I'm actually on the couch resting and, you know, living with my illnesses and dealing with the aftermaths of that. But I thrive because I refuse to let the illnesses direct me. I think that's probably the best way that I can put it. I thrive because I want to do as much as I possibly can beyond what my illnesses dictate. And I absolutely refuse to let my illnesses dictate my life. I want to move beyond what they are. Life is short, and I don't want to waste my time laying on the couch. So I think for people, when you're first diagnosed, I think it's important that you learn what your limitations are and then push yourself beyond them a little bit. You need to know what your boundaries are. You need to know what works for you, but don't be afraid to push, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I can say. Don't be afraid to try something that you want to try. And I think a lot of times, when we're given a diagnosis for a condition, we accept it and we just say, oh, well, that's it. I have this and I can't do anything else about it. Yes, you can. You can do a lot of things about it. Go ahead and try some exercise. Go ahead and try to do things that you think you're no longer able to do, because only you know the limitations that you're going to set upon yourself.
Well said. Well said. I remember when I got my diagnosis first, it's a very long word, dermatomyositis. I had no idea what it meant. So there was no moment of fear other than the doctor's body language wasn't good. So I knew it wasn't good. But once I read about it and then I talked to the doctor some more about it, I got a real stern lecture of be real. This is your life now. Sort of that scarlet big D of dermatomyositis pinned on you, and somehow this was it, and it's all downhill from there. And I found that at times, as you said, you have to push through it, because when it comes, I love medical doctors, neither Pam or I are a medical doctor, but sometimes they pronounce it in a way, I like to call it the white coat authority, that it's easy to believe hook, line, and sinker that you will be the worst case. They're really telling you sort of the worst case, the statistics. It doesn't mean that has to be you.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And you get that dramatic music in the background, dum, 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 and you think to yourself, I appreciate the severity of the information that you're telling me, and it could be that bad, but why don't you also give me the best case scenario and make that the information that you leave me with instead of the worst case scenario, and walk me out the door with that. Give me the best case and give me the encouragement that this is what you want to work with me with.
Yes.
To me, that makes more sense.
It does make more sense, although I found due to time limitations and also some knowledge limitations here in the States, the doctors are not taught a lot about nutrition.
No, that's very true.
One of my biggest shifts was radically changing what I ate. And in all honesty, I thought I ate healthy, but I did not. And that was one of the radical shifts for me. So it wasn't even a matter of asking them for the best case, which is awesome. But one of my frustrations is I have certain medical people say, wow, Sharon, you're just doing amazing. You're awesome. You're in the top percentage of, people with your condition. And I'll say, would you like to know what I'm doing? And I get the sad response of, no, just keep doing it.
Really?
And I kind of go, that's why I started the Autoimmune Hour, and probably why you blog, because if I could just share some of the things that have radically changed my life that are really in the scope of things, not that big a deal, learning to eat differently, better sleep hygiene, stress reduction, it's very simple things, how radically we could change the statistics. And that's kind of where I get up on my high horse.
Yes.
We're more than our diagnosis, but there's also a lot more that you can learn just to make your body healthy and into an optimized state to conquer what's going on with you.
Yeah. And this was one of the reasons that I started blogging, was because I knew I had things to say to people and ways that I could help people. that was beyond what a doctor would be able to do. A doctor can give you the medical stuff, but they don't give you the hope that you've got in, 7 minutes that you get to spend with your doctor. They don't have time to give you the positive experiences that you need. So, when I first started blogging, I wanted to be able to give the other half of the picture that you don't get from your doctor when you're first diagnosed with something. And that was the real reason I started the blog, because I wasn't necessarily getting that part from my doctor. Although my doctors are excellent in providing me with the medical information that I need, that's not the other part that I'm getting. And so for people who are newly diagnosed, or people who've been diagnosed for a long time, but still don't have that emotional support, that was the reason to get into the blogging, to hopefully provide the hope and the encouragement, along with some education that people might not have been receiving from other sources.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really important to know. And I appreciate what you said about, and just want to reiterate that the doctors are great in what they know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've often felt, though, that just similar to my friends and family, the majority of my doctors don't have an autoimmune condition. In fact,
Exactly.
I can't think of one, but maybe they do and they've never shared. And so, as well as they are at giving me the statistics and the care, the medicalness, the medical information that I need, and like Liz you and I are talking, two thrivers together, you get a group of people who want to help, but they've never walked in your shoes. So they don't really understand when, like you mentioned, brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
That could mean so many things. It could absolutely mean it's a word that's hard to define, as is inflammation.
Yes.
Is it just inflammation of your knee, or is your whole body on fire? Completely different topics that I find, unless you've felt that, you don't know what to ask.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard to describe to somebody who doesn't have an understanding of it as well. I can describe inflammation one way, you could describe it a different way, but to a person who's never experienced it, it might not necessarily register with them. So you're left with that situation as well.
I like to use metaphors with people who have not experienced it before.
Mm-hmm.
One of mine, in the very beginning of myositis means muscle weakness, and they would say, so what's it feel like? How is it? And I would try to relate it to something outside of that conditioned name. And the best way I could relate it was, I would say to them, it feels like my muscle is full, I've overexercised and my muscle is full of lactic acid, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So giving some sort of relatable metaphor to people, they go, oh, okay.
See, and I mostly feel my fibromyalgia in my legs, and I've always said it feels like my legs are encased in concrete.
Great metaphor. People can go, okay, I've never had that in concrete, but I can visualize that.
Yeah, it's that heavy, heavy feeling. Makes sense. People can recognize that. But, speaking in metaphors, and I have a metaphor for every part of my body now.
One of the things I like to do, I even write the metaphors down at times in my journal, and I've shared this on the show before, is writing on the right-hand side of the page in the here and now, and then leaving the left-hand side blank, and then going back after a period of time, a month, 2 months. I don't have a set time, life intervenes. But I'll go back at some point in time and reread some of those pages and write what's changed or hasn't changed.
Oh, good plan.
What that shows me, and it helps me even with the doctors, because, gosh, I'm in my 4th year, actually into my 5th year right now, and try to remember it all. And I have it in the journal, and I can remind myself, okay, yeah, when I first started this, let's just say I was way down there in the pit, I was down at the bottom of the hole. And sometimes I can get into that place of thinking, I'll have a bad day, I'll get exposed to a food sensitivity, whatever, something will happen. and you have momentarily kind of slip down and you go, oh, and you're feeling bad, maybe a little sorry for yourself. That's okay. But I go back and I read this and I realize, sure, you're not in the bottom of that hole anymore.
No, nothing like it was in the beginning.
Exactly. I look at it, my metaphor for that is I was down in the valley and now I'm climbing a mountain, and maybe I slipped a step or two down the mountain. But when I look at that picture, I am still way up that mountain.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, progress. And I think it's important to measure that progress. I think you're doing a great job with that because, when you have those really bad days and stuff, it's nice to see that you have actually made progress. And those are important points to really notice.
Yeah, well, one thing that I find interesting is I have friends who will say, oh, Sharon, you're looking fabulous. And that's not part of the invisible illness,
Yeah.
It's a funny thing because I might internally be going, oh, man, I'm just happy I'm walking.
I know.
And yet being able to look at where I was to where I am now is such a help for me to keep going.
It's a blessing, isn't it?
Yeah. To know that, okay, I'm on this right track. And the other thing I realize is if I have a bad moment, I go back and I read. I don't know about you, but this happens to me all the time. I'll start on a path and it'll be the most awesome change I've done in a long time. Something changed really fast. I'm feeling great really fast. And then, I don't know why this happens, but you get down the road of feeling really awesome. And then I tend to maybe, I'll cheat just this once.
Oh, yes.
And then
you
it
think
kind of
you
slip
can get
off
away with it.
So when I have that journal, I go back and remind me, no.
Don't do it. I know. One little cheat and it just all goes by the wayside.
And the more I realized, at first I was doing that quicker and quicker, like, okay, cheating more, or not more and more, but, okay, I'll try it. But now I'm just like, it wasn't worth it. I'm able to look back and go, okay, this is my life now.
Yeah.
All those other little cheats trying to get back, quote unquote, to the old life. It's
all about acceptance. And I think the longer that you have an illness for, the more you do come to acceptance, that you realize that it's not worth it, to take a step backwards for whatever reason. I have diabetes type 2, so, diet is important and all of that. And there are days I'm on insulin. I take insulin at night, and there are times where I literally just cannot stand the thought of having to stick myself with a needle again. Every night I have to do this. And there are times, and so I'm going to be honest here. I'm coming out being honest here. For the last month, I have not given myself insulin once for the whole month of November. I did not do insulin. And I just went and had all my blood work done, and I paid for it. My blood work numbers for my A1C numbers for the month came back, and it was not looking pretty. So I paid the price for not doing it. And I knew every night when I went to bed and I didn't use the insulin, I knew I was going to pay the price. But I was stubborn, and I thought, no, I'm going to see what happens if I don't do it, and let's just see how bad it really is. So now I know. And now I know that every night I have to have the insulin, whether I want to or not, and I just have to get over myself.
Yeah.
You learn.
Yeah, we learn. And I think that's important, to just be patient with yourself. And I appreciate your honesty and the realness about how sometimes we just have to learn.
Yeah. It's tough, I mean, I feel bad for anybody who has to take insulin on an ongoing, regular basis throughout the day and everything. I certainly have my sympathies, and I was just being a little bit of a stubborn brat. And like I say, I've learned that doesn't work, and I better smarten up and own up to the fact that, yes, I need to do this. So, yeah.
Well, I think as we go through this autoimmune journey, we bump into ourselves a lot, whether it is insulin, I'm not going to give myself a shot, or just that I refuse to give up. I don't know. I refuse to give up donuts. I mean, there are all these things where we can stubbornly refuse.
There's always something, and my husband, bless his soul, he's very good. He really does support me. But he did make a batch of whipped shortbread last night, and I have had maybe too many. So
yes, that's one of my arguments a while too. It is tough when you're the only one in the family members who can't have certain things.
Yeah.
I absolutely can't have gluten. That is so...
That's a real trigger for you?
A huge trigger for me. And yet you wake up one morning and somebody is having toast. And I'm just... all the memories come flooding back of, what toast used to taste like and all of that. And it's really hard sometimes to keep moving forward and say, no, I'm not going to go through what that toast does to my joints.
Yeah.
Just a luck of the draw.
It's what we have to deal with, what we've been given. So, yeah, exactly.
I've been known to say to some people, like, no, don't make toast today. I'm just not strong enough to...
And hopefully they respect that. That's a big issue. There have been times where I've certainly craved something and, my husband has said, do you really want me to do that for you? And I'm like, I am not strong enough to fight it. So it's up to you to help me help myself tonight. And, he's been very good and supportive and has distracted me from it or whatever. So, sometimes you need that support from the family to just help you get over whatever the craving is or, what have you. So.
Yeah, that's so true. Just asking for help is critically important.
It is.
Yeah. Well, we're just about out of time. We have just a few minutes left. Tell the audience how to get a hold of you and anything else you'd like to share, any last minute thoughts that we didn't cover yet.
Absolutely. So the best way to get hold of me is at the blog, which is at https://PamelaJessen.com. And I think those will be up on the website, so the spellings will be there so people can look me up. And final thoughts that I'd like to leave with people is, number one, you are not alone. You are not alone on this journey. There are people out there who feel like they're lost and alone, but trust me, everyone out there feels the same way. So we're all just circling this earth together, feeling like we are alone, but you're not. There are people out there who are willing to listen and willing to help. So reach out, find a support group. Find a willing ear and don't be afraid to ask for help and ask questions. Find my website, find my email. I'm always available. Trust me, when you only sleep 2 hours a night, you're always available. So I am always available, and I welcome people's questions, comments on the blog, and find me by email. I'm around. And there is always hope. Don't ever give up. Whatever you've been handed, whatever you're facing, don't give up. There is always hope. And if you're feeling like you can't find that hope, find my blog, find my email. I'll make sure that you've got some hope.
Awesome. And that's the important thing, everyone, is sticking together, inspiring help and hope for those who just need a lift at the moment. I've met so many people at one time, they were down, as I say, down at the bottom, and not too much longer then I meet them and something has changed. So there's always hope. It's amazing to me. So, I'm just going to throw in a strange hope, okay? I lost my favorite pair of glasses 2 months ago. I swear I kind of remembered where I'd lost them. I swear I lost them in Detroit, right? And I'm thinking, I kept hoping and that I was wrong, kept hoping that I would find them. And I finally gave up and tried to find a new pair of glasses, and I couldn't find the exact glasses anymore. And I just turned it over and I said, oh, well, and I bought a new pair of glasses. There's always hope. I found them today.
Yay!
They are my favorite pair of glasses. They were not in Detroit, by the way. I'd actually had another conference in Detroit and flew all the way back to Detroit. and visited some of the places I'd visited, like the hotel, in hopes that I would find my glasses and all of that. And yet here I'm in a different location. I travel the world a lot, so I'm in a different location today, and somehow I had just left them here, unbeknownst to me. So
wow.
I just felt like they somehow traveled on the wings of angels to be here and surprise me. So
there you go. On There Is Hope Day with me, you found your hope.
Exactly. I hoped and hoped and hoped I'd find my favorite glasses, and then here they were when I arrived at my new location. So everyone, that's awesome. There's always hope. And thank you so much, Pamela, for being on the show. Everyone, go over to understandingautoimmune.com, transcribe tribe, to be able to get your transcript of this show and all the other shows, as well as join us on YouTube. You can see this via video as well as the audio cast. And look me up on Facebook. I'm there under the Autoimmune Hour, as well as Understanding Autoimmune. So join me on Facebook as well. And Twitter is Autoimmune Hour, Instagram is Autoimmune Hour, and Understanding Autoimmune. I think that about does it for the social media, but you can connect with me at any of those places as well. I love to hear from you all. And just like Pamela, maybe we'll meet on social media. Everyone, have a great week, whatever your adventures. Join me next Friday night for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on lifeinterruptedradio.com is for educational purposes only. What you hear, read, and see on Life Interrupted Radio is based on experience only. The information presented here should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on Life Interrupted Radio. You've been listening to Life Interrupted Radio. To learn more, listen to other shows, and gain free resources that can help empower your life, be sure to stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com.